Hello and welcome to our webinar series ARCHLine.XP from start to finish. Part 2, this time we talk about documentation. My name is Untitled. Over here is as always our resident architect, Mr. ARCHLine.
Hi there.
We have a lot on our list, so let's get started. So Ilyes, what did we discuss last time and what we are going to talk about today?
Last time we created a two-story building. All the walls and doors and windows were automatically loaded as a DWG file, and we used those specific tools to convert this to the DWG drawing into real BIM elements, doors, windows, and walls. We created slabs and other decorative items like the gutter and the columns, and we also created the multi-story structure of this building, and we created the roof and the firewall. So this is the building we will start with today, and we will first create a section, and this is this is what we will introduce first: how to generate the section and how to work with the section.
Let's take a look. So what are sections in ARCHLine? How do we create them?
Sections are specific drawings generated from the BIM model, and those are all handled using the documentation and the section tool. The section tool actually comes with a few options. Now we will focus on the define section option, which actually brings up the property dialog where you can set up all the properties that you should deal with when you would like to create your architectural section. Now this section comes with predefined settings, but you can obviously customize that. For example, if I would like to see the symbols, like the two A and A symbols for the AA section, then I can enable that option. Talk about the partial section view, which we will enable now. It's if you have a long model. I mean, this model will also be part of a larger city location with a few grounds and surrounding buildings, and we would like to intersect only the building, and this is the option to do so. Right? So you won't intersect the whole world that you designed, but only that specific part, from the endpoint to the endpoint.
What else do we have?
Well, also. We should turn on the hatch on section. This will generate the section, the intersected surfaces with a specific hatch pattern. We will also talk about the hatch pattern, why is that like that. And also, as we are creating an architectural section now, and we don't want to see chairs and tables and anything if we would have accidentally placed them on the drawing, this option automatically eliminates all of those, so we don't have to worry that anything suddenly appears that we didn't want to make appear. And I think as a starter, this is all what we need to set up, and obviously in the next step we need to design the section line.
How do we do that?
Well, in the section, in case of designing a section line, what we need to find is first the starting point of the section line and the end point. Now, in this specific case, I think I will just create something like this. You can later modify that, and when you make the 2 clicks, then you also need to find the proper viewpoint for that section. So I will look at the left-hand side, and yes, I would like to create the section. And now we see all these section lines, level lines generated, and the structure also appear here in this. This is actually, it looks like a 2D drawing, but it's a 3D section. Whenever we change anything on the 2D drawing, it will be reflected on this drawing. So this is what we call a dynamic drawing. It's a linked drawing. It's still linked with the original model, with the original BIM building, actually.
Perfect. But I see that. This drawing is generated with a certain line weight, but how do I change that to something else?
Well, the line weight it depends on a specific setting that you can find in the settings dialog of the software. So if you go to the options and you scroll down, there are a few options that you can change, talking about the drawing settings. A line weight scale is now 1 to 10 on my computer, but you can change it to anything else. Let's make it, for example, 1 to 50. And if you do that, and if you close this, you will be able to see that a few of those thin and thick lines, they change how they appear on this drawing, and especially on the 2D drawing. So in case of using a larger scale, all these appear a little bit stronger. I mean, thicker. The thick lines appear a little bit thicker.
What happens if I'm not satisfied with the current hatch patterns on this section? What do I do?
The hatch patterns appearing inside a structure are coming from the material setting. So now this wall has a specific internal material, the brick 3, which has this setting. So if I would like to change, for example, the slab material setting, I need to go into the details of this slab, find what sort of material I defined, and if I would like to change the hatch pattern, I only need to select it. Now it's selected, and I can edit the material. Now, this material comes with a specific physical property, appearance, hatch in 3D, and hatch on section.
Yes.
And this hatch on section defines how it looks like. And if I go to the hatch pattern list, I can browse from a different setting. If I can go and find different libraries, and for example, if I go with this library and I find, for example, let's just go with an ISO representation of the reinforced concrete material. I just select that. I go with OK, and you can even change the spacing of this. I will just change it to 300 by 300. You can actually rescale, refine how it looks like in the section. If you say OK, and close this dialog, and you refresh the section, which can be done 2 ways, then it will be updated. How to update it? I think one of the most obvious and logical way to do that is if you right-click on the elevation, I mean the section line, and you can find this create refresh section, and this allows the software to regenerate the content and update everything that has changed. And this, in our case, this was the hatch pattern inside. Now note that now we are intentionally work with conceptual drawings scale. I mean, we do not have layers, we do not have wall layers, we do not have slab layers, but I think now it's a good time to say a few words about that, how to do so. So if you would like to work with, and if you have to work with the multi-layers structure, then you have a few options. First things first, talking about, for example, walls, ARCHLine is coming with predefined settings. Those are mostly multi-layered wall sets, and a few of them are conceptual like this. You can also define them manually. So if you go to the building and properties and wall settings, then you will be able to edit a compound wall. It appeared on the other screen. So you will be able to add as many layers you want. And you can set up the function, their connection order, the materials, thicknesses, and the fill pattern, and all sort of settings. So this is how you can fully customize the structure. And at the end, if you created something that was not part of the software library originally, but you wanted to save it into your libraries, let me just quickly change the hatch pattern inside that so we can see how it works. Let's go with this one. OK and OK. So now I have a structure like this. So if I would like to store this for my future work, I can click here and I can create a new wall. Let's call it 3-layered 30 wide wall.
Yes.
Let's make it 300 in millimeters, and then you can decide whether this will be available for all of your projects on this computer, like it's a global setting, or you can make it project dependent, so this will only appear in this project. So I make it now global, so next time I start a new project, I will be able to find this new setting, and I will be able to work with that. So this is how you can create multi-layered options, and if I would like to change this and turn it into that specific style that I used before, I will be able to select it from this list and then use it in this work, and then the software will update the section. Perfect. The same applies for the slabs.
That's right. Now, what happens if I want to go back to my section and I want to insert a break line into the section line? Now, why would I want to do that? Because maybe I want to have the section line going through the staircase. So maybe I want it to go to the other room right there. So like how do I do that? Yeah, well, now I'm on the first floor, so I go back to the ground floor, and now I can see the staircase much better, and I will add a breakpoint here. Yes. So to do that, I just select the section line, I click here, and I select the insert node. It's like a pin, and now the software broke this one line into 2 new parts, and I'm able to click on this one and use the offset to move the
section line somewhere here. So now I have a section going through the entrance, through the staircase, and then break. And when I click on finish, and yes, I would like to update it. See, it will appear over there. So now I have a different view of the same content because of the changes of the section line.
Perfect. Just a quick reminder, if I want to have this section to be in the focus of the interface, how do I do that? How do I change the windows?
If you would like to make this larger, then you just click on that and you click on this one. This is magnify view, if you can see that. It's actually switching context. If you click here and you use it again, the software will put it to the large. And if you select this one and you click here again, it will make it into focus. This is how you can easily organize content, even if you have more than 2 drawings on your screen.
Perfect. Now let's look at elevations and see how they are different from sections.
Elevation drawings are generated the best and easiest from the project Navigator. If you see it on the right hand side, you can just click on it and generate it. If in your case it's not appearing on the screen, in some installations it's actually hidden to the right hand side of the screen. So if you click here and you click on this little pin to pin it to the screen, then it will stay there and you don't have to worry about it. Now in case of the elevation list, we can see that there are the default elevations that we can generate, and we can obviously create more. But if I click on the west elevation, and the reason I'm doing that because now the left-hand side of the building is the west and the west side, and this is what I would like to generate.
I see.
So I click on that one, and the software will create the west elevation. Now this elevation is by default just a clear line drawing, but you can customize how it looks like. And the easiest to do so is to use the navigation bar, and the navigation bar has this second option, this second icon here, which brings up the shading dialog, which allows you to set up how the shaded elevation view will look like. Now in my case, I would like to generate the shadows with contours and hatches. Now this is the hatch pattern that I would like to see as a shadow, so I'm fine with that. I also would like to create a version that is kind of colored, with, let's say, textured with the hatch patterns. I disable this option because I would like to generate shadows for all the surfaces, not just for a few selected surfaces. And also I would like to enable the elevation shadow. So instead of having to define where the sun is actually, the software will just generate a generic, good-looking elevation view, which is independent from where the current sun setting is. So now when I hit OK, the software will start making the calculations. It can take a little while. It really depends on how many surfaces you have. But take care that because this is not an image drawing, it is actually literally generating a line drawing. It could take a little longer than the other drawings. So now what we see here is the elevation, the west elevation, and this is also part of my project. So when I click here, the software will organize this content all together with the rest, so I can start working on this one, or I can go back to the drawing, click on this magnify view and start working with that. Now an important thing here with this elevation is that it also has a symbol automatically appearing on the 2D, and it has a length, a certain length. Now it's auto-generated based on the shape and size of our current building, but you can actually customize this length. You can also add a breakpoint if you have a very specific elevation view. So in this manner, it really works similar to the section. It also has a very similar section, elevation settings list like the section. And one common part that I usually use for the elevation altogether with the sections is the partial elevation view. It's the same like the partial section view. So it limits the elevation view, not for the whole model, but only for the part that is in between the endpoints of this elevation view. So I enable this option because it is a very useful thing to do. Yeah, I regenerated, but there is not many things to change. So I will just actually get back to the same drawing, but sometimes I just really update the drawing to get the latest content.
Just a quick recap, this drawing is still in direct connection with the model, right?
Yeah, so actually, even if I click here, or when I click here, I see a line drawing, but it really generates a 2D view. I mean a line representation of the door, of the balcony railing that we have designed, and the, for example, the gutters and everything else. So that means whenever the design will change, we have to move the partition walls, for example, change the doors to something else. Then the same way how we updated the section, we can also update the elevation. And I think one closing sentence here could be good, that if you regenerate the 3D, then you actually regenerate all the content. So this little hammer that we talked about earlier, which updates the model, updates the changes, it's actually updating the changes not only on the model, but also, as you can see, all the rest of the model. So if anything had changed and you push that button, you can make sure that all those changes are going through all your drawings.
Good, thank you very much. Now let's look at geolocation as another aspect of documentation. So what kind of tools does ARCHLine.XP have in terms of geolocation?
First, being able to create a geolocation is actually a two-step problem issue that we need to find a solution for. Sometimes it's not really a geolocation, we just would like to represent the surroundings somehow, yes, because of the shadow analysis, which we will introduce soon. Mm-hmm. And many other cases, actually, I believe more than 90% of the cases, we really want to find the location, and we really would like to define that location. We will also cover that. So first, how to represent a very simple surrounding, like just a flat ground around the building. To be able to do that, actually, in many cases, I only use the slab tool. The slab tool is perfect. That's just a flat ground. I already know how to control it. I can easily define the contour of it. So at this time, I will also do the same thing. So I just zoom out a little bit because I would like to create a really large contour. And then I just go and use the slab contour, the slab in sketch mode tool. And I pick the corner points like that around. We also already have a few slabs, and we also already have a ramp, so I will want to take that into consideration, but mm-hmm, let's just focus on this issue first. Now I have a default slab with default materials. That is also something that I would like to change. This is obviously not a building part, so I will change the pocket material to, I think let's just go with something like a bright white. It will be perfect for this surrounding. Now it's just a plain white ground. And then I also would like to change the height of this whole thing, because this is a terrace which has a 300 millimeter height. We defined that in the previous session. So I would like to select this layer, this one layered slab, this surrounding ground, and I would like to change its base elevation to push it down minus 300 and hit enter, and then now I have this. So this is already a basic representation of the surrounding. That's, for me, now it's enough. But what if I would like to go beyond this and really find the perfect location? Because when I would like to make the shadow analysis, I will need the correct geolocation. If I would like to do that, I need to go to the view option, and you will see these possibilities here. And actually, there is a great collector option for all of these at close to the north side. Now, the north side is actually not just an option. It actually has a list of options. This is, for example, where you can set up the sun position. And if you would like to place it somewhere on the globe, there is already a built-in list. Like, let's just place it to, for example, let's pick up a city here. Let's place it in Torino or Firenze or some Italian city. This is actually a building from Italy. So we just select in Italy a location. Now, this comes with a specific latitude, longitude, so now it's already a specific location on the globe. And we can set up the month and local time. This should be, I believe, around 10 o'clock in the morning, and we can also define the north direction. This is where, if I just would like to change the north direction of the 2D drawing, like this, then I just change it, or I can type the value and I hit enter, and now also the symbol changed on this 2D drawing, as you can see.
Perfect. And before we go more into shadows, let's talk about the neighboring buildings, because these are the ones that have a direct effect in terms of shadows on your location, right? So how do we represent the neighboring buildings? Now, of course, we could be drawing them with the tools that we have discussed last time, but that would take too long of a time, right?
Yeah. So now we have this content here, and before we go on, see, I already defined the elevation and the section to be only partial, but now I added the new item, so they automatically recognize that new item. But again, when I update the 3D, the content will be updated.
Back,
so
yes.
now it's trimmed and it's much easier to work with. So now coming back to the 2D. On the 2D, we at the first stage we had a location aside drawing. So I will just enable the content of that. I just click on the layer manager, and in the layer manager I find the automatically generated filter for that specific 2D DWG which we had. That was the 2D, and it has a list of layers. So I just select the whole list. I just click here, and then I enable the visibility. I don't want to edit the content, I just would like to see the content. And I click OK, and now we can see the surrounding. These are actually top views of the buildings. And to be able to draft the surrounding, we do not have to really literally remodel the total building. We only need to have a shape that resembles the surrounding building. And now this is what I will do. I will just zoom into this part. This will appear somewhere here in the 3D model. And I will remodel this building using the building part, and there is this terrain, and there is the building volume option. Now, building volume starts with the contour definition. So you need to recreate the contour that you would like to turn into a building volume, and just hit enter. And then you can set up the building volume settings. So can you help me what sort of settings we wanted to use here? I believe
that would be 45 degrees.
This is the roof inclination. So that was 45-degree angle.
What is the B value? The B value is basically the elevation, right?
Yeah, actually that's the vertical front of the building.
So that should be like 6,000.
Yeah, okay, let's go with that. 6,000. We are working with millimeters again today.
And now all we have to define is the E value, the height of the building.
Yeah, it's kind of the maximum height. So even if the building shape would generate a larger building, that's the limit. So what will be that?
Let's make it into 9,000.
9,000. Okay, it's just 9,000. And then now I just click on for all sides, because I would like to apply this 45-degree angle for all the sides. And then it's updated. So this is how it looks like. You can use this one to turn this view into something easier to understand. But actually, this is the building shape that we have created. And I just click OK, and now it automatically appears over there. It comes with a default material.
Yes.
Now, in our case, it's something of a wood. But if I click here and I change the material to, again, let's just use a plain white. It's much better for now. Then it appears as a plain white box or volume around the building.
My question is, I have a few other buildings, right?
Yeah.
But I don't want to define the. Let's assume that the shape is similar.
Yeah.
I don't want to define it 2 more times. How do I copy that element?
Well, in that case, we can use the same thing we used before for items like, for example, the windows. You just click on the item, you use the context menu, and there is something called the create similar. It's like picking up the properties. Let's just click here and then trace the other drawing quickly and easily. Just go around and hit enter. And now I have this other building volume. Let me just zoom out a little bit so we can see it much better. See, and now it's limited. So I can go back to the properties, obviously, to change it, but now I'm fine with that setting. So this is how it looks like. And then I just do the same thing around here. Let's just go and use the terrain and the building volume. And let's just, I just wanted to use the same thing. So I just right click here, create similar, and let's just trace the contour of this building. If you make a mistake, make a mistake like this, it's not a problem. The software will generate this shape, and then you can just click here and remove the node, erase the node, and you can reshape the whole content. So this is how it will work, and then it still appears. You can reshape that, you can copy that if you have similar items, and even if we wanted to, we can also generate just bodies for the rest of the buildings to represent how the rest of this building block looks like.
Definitely. Now, let's talk about the shadows themselves, because now the building would have a direct relation on our location. So how do we create shadows?
And to represent the shadows, those are based on the geolocation and the sun settings. We already defined the sun setting and the geolocation, so we should be able to see that how it looks like, and it's in the same location in the view, and this is where you can find the shadow simulation. Now, if you click on that, the software will bring up this dialog, and this is actually a representation of the horizon of the globe. That's the sky, that's the ground. Everything below this line is at nighttime, and everything above this is daytime. And now we are at the same location and location and date and time that I used before. So I can either click and drag the time slider to see it in real time, how it works, and I can see how it affects surrounding buildings, and also how the surrounding buildings affect my building, even if they ever do. And the same thing I can do all across the year. So I can just pick up a location. I'm in a time like around 10 o'clock, and I can just click and drag this around a specific time of the year to find if there is, for example, usually here at this part of the globe where we are now, winter time, the shadows are very, very long, so sometimes it's best to check that here. In some specific local regulations, you also have to prove that your building is not affecting the surrounding building too much. This is the real-time solution, and there is also a solution where you can actually generate a drawing out of that, and this is called the solar access. We won't create that, but that's an option where actually the software will generate a drawing, like a proof of shading drawing.
As a next step, we are going to look at dimensions. But before that, I think we can turn off the DWG drawing. I don't think we will be needing it anymore.
Okay. So let's just go here and find the settings. This is the 2D drawing, and I don't want to see any of those. Again, I click here, Shift, click on the last one, and then click on the little light bulb, and this disappear, make the whole thing disappear. And I think before we start the dimensions, we should organize these onto a new layer to be able to switch this off. We did not cover that yet, but if you click here, and if you would like to create a new layer into this list, you can click here. You can use the predefined ones if you prefer that, but you can also click here and say that you would like to create something of like a surrounding. This will be the surrounding layer. Yeah, it's there. And now I just select this item, Control click on the other one, and this one, and this one, and I click on the layer option. Now they are all in different layers, but I will make them appear on the surrounding layer, and it's surrounding
there
here.
You go.
Yep.
Yes.
So now I'm able to control it and switch it off completely when I don't want to see. And this is what I do. I just go here and I find this surrounding layer. This should appear somewhere. Now I just reorganized the list, so I can click here to make it alphabetic order. So let's just move down and find the surrounding layer, surrounding, it's here. Yep. So let's just make it disable, the visibility, and then now it's here. And now if I rebuild the 3D, it will also disappear from the 3D model, and also it updates the sections and all other building parts.
Let's talk about dimensioning. How do we do that?
All the dimension tools are collected in a specific ribbon collection. These are all the dimension possibilities from building parts, arcs and angles and everything else. Now what I will start with is a building dimension collection, and there's an automated option which is the ovals dimension collection. If you click here, the software comes with the setting, how it will look like, and it comes with all the options that you can use at the top, and you can add these options to this list at the bottom. And when you click OK, you can actually create those sections. The dimensions. The dimensions are based on a few settings, and before I place it, let me focus on one specific dimension that is perhaps not that obvious how it works, but it's a good thing to know about, and it's the doors and windows, how they are generated, how they look like. And those are actually generated by the setting of the door and the window. If you go, for example, to building, properties, openings, and door, you will find an option for the dimensions, how the dimension looks like for this specific item type. And for example, now I will change something for how it looks like on the summarized doors and windows, and it will look like this one. So there will be the width and the height appear right on top of each other. So I made this change here. So I click here and click OK, and we will see that change appear when I make the dimensions using the dimension building and all walls option. So again, we have this list. We just say OK, and then we select the building with 2 clicks, one here and one another here. So I've selected all the walls. I hit enter to accept the selection, and then I can move my mouse to find the best position for the dimension line. So I just move it somewhere here, and the software automatically generates all the dimension types that I have selected. So first we can see, for example, the windows, the doors, yes, with that specific representation that I have changed just before. We can see the door and window frames. We can see how the walls connect into the main wall, and there is a kind of sub-summary and the summary appearing at the top. So this is how it looks like. And I think it's also important to talk about that these are actually connected to the items. So when I move this item, so for example, I need to change its location because we had a discussion about that and we figured out there's a better location for that. Let me just change that here. So I moved it 200 millimeters to the left, and it updated also the dimensions as well. So let me just undo. So if you check this value here, see, it automatically updates how the drawing changes.
I'm not sure if it was visible, but on the right-hand side, when you were moving the windows, even the sections and the elevation drawing updated.
Yeah, that's right. So let me just undo and redo. So this is how it looks like. Yeah,
perfect. A question from my part: what does the order of these dimensional lines depend on? So why do I see that line with the window measurements first and the others next?
These depend on this list, how I assemble this list. So I selected one item, I added it here, and then the second one, the third one, and the fourth one. So this makes up the order then which appears around the building when I make the dimensions around.
Yes, and now we look at room and area, how to get area calculations.
The room and area tool is in the building part. This is where you can find all the room and area calculation tools. The room and area is also based on default settings. Now we won't change them. We will just use them as ready-made options. And if you click here, there are actually 2 widely used options. This is the room by walls and the room by polygon, and also their automatic counterparts. But now I would like to place them manually, so I just check the room by walls option. The room by walls actually recognizing the room shape, as you can see, and you can go with one of those predefined settings even if you want to. For example, there's a small room here, and there are 2. I want a bedroom, and there's an office here. So based on that, I will just go with first the bedroom option, select that, and then zoom in and place the text somewhere here. Now the calculation, the software actually recognized the room, and it made the calculation for the room, and it made the text appearing also. So I do the same thing with the office. I just click here. This is an office part. I click here and I place the text so it appears. Also, there's this tiny room here. There's the toilet. I just use the same thing here. I just zoom in a little bit to find the best position, and I use it. So now these are the options that I use when I have simple and close boundaries for the rooms. But for example, this specific case here, this is not one single room. This is actually separated into a kitchen and also a living room. So if I would like to place it here, I need to somehow separate it. And for that, there is a dedicated specific tool, and that's the room and area room by polygon. So when you use that, you actually can design the contour by yourself. So you can just pick all the points, making up this contour for this room.
So this is the same tool that it works similarly than when you're creating slabs and other things. And I assume that you would be able to fine-tune the contour later on, right?
Yeah, and now I would like to find this point on this line. So I just move my mouse here, keep it there a little bit. So the software creates this horizontal, vertical auxiliary line, and then I can zoom in and find that. So now, again, take close attention to this because there are several other points, and you need to zoom in to find the perfect one, like that. And then select this one. And I think I'm done with this, so I just hit enter to close the contour, and then close the whole command now, because if there would be any sort of exclusion, now I could exclude that area, draw another area which is excluded from this room, but now there is nothing like that, so I just hit enter. And then now I need to set up the height of this room, because now this tool, besides the other two, which are the first one, the room by walls, which automatically recognizes the whole room volume, this is not recognizing the building volume. You need to define these parameters. So the height of the slab, the room itself is 2,700 millimeters, and then now I have this text here. So I just quickly rename it to kitchen, and yeah, like that. And I just quickly remake this whole thing, but this time with this part, which will be the living room. So I just use the same tool again.
So that part is going to be chopped up into a kitchen and the living room. And I assume, like I said before, that you can later on manually change the contour. The bottom line is that here you have a manual control over what you are going to include and exclude in a certain part of a room, and assign it to be, in this case, it's going to be a living room.
Yeah, that's right. So it's just again enter and accepting the height. And now it's a room appearing. Well, I didn't change the type, so I just change it to living room, for example. And if I need to, I can also change the text, how it appears. So now this is what we've got. We have 5 different rooms. 3 were created automatically, recognized automatically, and they will also follow the changes automatically. And we have 2 manual contours, which can be updated manually, and those can also share their borders without having a wall appearing over there.
And now we look at symbols and annotations. How do we add them and how do we edit them?
Okay, let's start with, for example, an elevation on the floor plan. There's those kind of specific symbols. In some countries they are using that, and it's in the dimension. You can find it as a dedicated tool, elevation on floor plan. Now this works in this way. You need to select the item that you would like to measure. Now in this case I will measure the contour of the building. This will be a wall, and I will be measuring one specific point of this wall. And I can decide either I would like to measure the bottom part or the top part. Let's go with the bottom one. And now the software recognizes the value. Now it starts from 0, so I should see 0 as I see now. But if I would have chosen the top, I would see 2,700 perhaps, because that's the height of the wall. Now I would like to measure ground 0, so that's fine. I go with OK. And then now I can select the symbol. I can go also into the libraries and find different symbols. I will go with this default one. And besides whatever I see here, the software will use the measured value, replacing that, and I can place this symbol somewhere here. So this way, for example, I can measure the height of this terrace, or I can measure the height of a specific part on the drawing and represent that this way.
How about north signs?
Well, the north sign is a group. Most of the things that you would think about, like symbols, are treated as groups in the software, and those are at the left-hand side in the Design Center. If you cannot see the Design Center start page, you should click here, and then the start page appears. And here you can find the building, and there's the group part. Now, in case of the group, you will find categories, just as in case of the materials and also the objects. And you can find a library called the signs. And here you can also find something like the north signs. Now these are nice colored symbols that you can use as they are. So let me just find one that I'm willing to use. And for example, let's choose this one. If you just click and drag and just place it somewhere on the drawing, you can see that it appears with a certain angle, and it's because I have changed the north sign. So ARCHLine recognizes when you use these north signs, it recognizes how it should be tilted. There's one another thing that I'm willing to show you before I place it here, and that's how you can change the size. If you click on that before you click and drag, you can actually find the width and the height, and you can even double click to find the scaling. So if you would like to create something like half the size of this one, let me just change it like that, and then you hit OK, then the software will place a smaller symbol like that. I'm happy with this, so I just click there, and then I just hit escape to drop this symbol. Also, when you select it, you can change its color. If you see that its color is black, but it's not appearing black, it's because groups are assembled based on separate items, which can have different colors. In that case, if you would like to force this color onto the parts of the group, then you can just enable this force color option, and then now everything will inherit that setting.
Another scenario when you would be using signs and groups, as you said it, is when you are going to mark the entrance of a location. So how do we get a symbol to signify the entrance?
That's also a group, and you will see them in the signs, and there is a dedicated group for arrows. I mean, a library for arrows, and I will just pick this one up and I just align it next to the entrance like that. Also, you can scale this, you can recolor that the same way as you would do with the north side.
How about text? Annotations for that matter.
Yeah, a text, a classic, like a title for this drawing, like we would like to add the title like ground floor or something like that. It's in the drafting. In drafting, you can find the text tools, and there is the first one which allows you to type a text and place it on the drawing. And also, as you can see at the left-hand side, it comes with predefined styles as well. So let's just go with the default style and let's type ground floor. Ground floor, this is what I would like to write here. And let's say, okay, let's just place it somewhere here, for example. I'm not satisfied with the size, so I have a few options. I can just change the type, I mean the style, selecting another one, or I can just edit the height, which can be edited here. And also, if you zoom in and take a close attention here, you can see the height. Actually, it's 200 millimeters. Let's just double that to 400. And hit enter, and now it's just larger. So it's just this way you can select any sort of text and rescale it.
So this is not a global setting.
No,
this is the case-by-case setting.
No, it's just I have only changed this one copy. But if I select and place another text next time, it comes again with the settings that I'm selecting from the left-hand side.
Great, and now let's investigate how do we create unlinked drawings from the ones that we have created, and we are going to talk about why we should create unlinked drawings in the first place.
When you generate a section, when you generate an elevation in ARCHLine, those are linked, those are dynamic drawings, that's how we call them. If you would like to create an unlinked, non-dynamic drawing, like a classic 2D explosion copy of that drawing, then you can make a copy and turn that into an unlinked drawing. Now, why would anyone do that? It's for a few reasons. Like, for example, I'm just starting with working with a BIM software like this, and I don't know how to make details, but I already know how to make 2D details, so I would like to be able to do that. No worries, you can at any time detach the content. And also, if let's just think about, for example, a historical building where there is a very specific decoration on the building which you don't want to model and you don't even find a model for that, then also you can just make a 2D unlinked copy of the drawing and make a 2D decoration on that. So let's just see how this works like. And I think in this case, I will just use the section drawing for that. So now we have a dynamic section drawing, which is still in connection with the 2D content. Now, if I would like to make an unlinked copy of that, I just select the whole content. I use the Control Copy, Control C, and let's just pick up a reference point. This is where this is the point which I grab this content with. So I just hit escape. Now I've created a copy of this. And to be able to work on that as a 2D unlinked copy, I need to paste it into a 2D content, but instead of pasting it next to this area, I just go to the View menu and I create a new dedicated 2D drawing for my 2D sections. So I create that and I name it like 2D sections. And I say, okay, and I just Control V, paste it. And then now with that point, with that reference point, I just paste it somewhere here. Now here, I can see the same content, but when I zoom in and I select, for example, the door, it's a polyline, it's not a door. But if I would do that with the original content, which is here, and I select that, it's still the door. So now this is unlinked. I can do whatever I want with this without kind of saying risking the model or just make myself safe, and I already know how to do that in 2D, so I will just focus on the 2D now.
How about placing some dimensions on this?
To add the dimensions. To add the dimensions.
Elevation information, for example. I mean, I know that we have the roof, the floor lines over there, but what happens if you want to make a few measurements, dimensions on it? Yeah,
and I think I also erased this because this is not making any sense now because we did not create the basement. So yeah, to add those details those are also in the dimension, and in the dimension you will find this elevation on section option. This comes with the first setting when you need to define where 0 is. Now, I think I just go here because this, in my case, this is 0, and then I say what point of this drawing I would like to measure, and in my case it's that one. And then I just place the first dimension, for example, here. Now the software measured 0, and then now I can add this one and the other one and the following one and so on. I can just quickly go around and annotate this content, and then just find, for example, the top of the building. If there would be a chimney or something like that, I would measure that as well. So I can just quickly go through and I can just place that. I can do that on the same thing on the right hand side. And actually I can do something similar with regular length dimensions.
Yes.
So in case I would like to do something like that, we have these two options, the serial in horizontal and serial in vertical. Now the serial in horizontal, both works in the same fashion. You need to pick a distance. For example, I measure the thickness of the wall, and then I just place this dimension somewhere here, and then I just go and focus on the second one. I measure the thickness of this wall, position the text somewhere here, and then place the following one. See, now ARCHLine recognizes this, that those would overlap each other, so it's not automatically placing, but it allows me to place this dimension somewhere where I feel it's comfortable and informative enough. So like that again here. And then let me just speed it up and find a few other breakpoints like this here. Okay, I think it's fine over there. And this one and the thickness of this wall, let's just place it over there and so on. So I'm done with this drawing. And if there is an information that I would like to measure here, and if there's an information like vertical serial dimension that I would like to place, I can do the same thing with those two tools.
Mm-hmm. Great, and now let's look at something more numerical, because now we are going to look at schedules, quantity takeoffs, and these kind of things which we can use to get calculated data out of the model. Let's talk about calculations, especially schedules. What are they? What can we do with them?
Schedules are kind of quantity takeoffs that are in connection with the building parts. Let's see an example to that. If you go to the documentation, you can find a schedule option, and you can actually define schedules, and you can also use predefined ones. I will go with the second option, and this time I will create a door schedule based on this building on both of the floors, and then hit OK. And then I just use the default settings. I will place a header, footer, and all the totals I would like to calculate with that, and I hit OK. And then I can place this. It's actually like a table text I can place next to the building. And then the software makes the summary and calculation of the building doors that I have placed here and on the first floor. I can see them grouped in the ground floor and on the first floor.
What can we do here?
If I select this the schedule, I can see blue items. Those are values that can be interacted with, and there are also those tiny magnifiers. So for example, if I would like to know what door we talk about when we talk about this one, for example, I can click on this one, and the software indicates that actually that door appears over there. So what can I do with that? It's actually, as you can see, it's collecting the information like the width and the height, and also I can see the same values here, and I can see that there is only one copy of this specific door appearing on this level. But if I click here, and for example, again, there was a change in the drawing and I need to change it to 1000, I can just change it here, because obviously in the list I would like to see an updated value. And then now that it was updated, the software also updates the content. So let's see, if I click here, let's find it again. So see, now the door also gets updated.
Does it work both ways?
Yeah, if I update this here, it will also update the content on the right-hand side. So schedule is in kind of a bi-directional connection between the content itself and the door and the content itself. So whichever you change, it will update the other one.
How do you make this into an offline, or can you make this into an offline copy?
You can turn this directly into an offline copy, and also there is another tool which is called the quantity takeoff. Now the quantity takeoff generates an Excel list of the same building based on your selection. Now, for example, if you would like to make a summary, like a collection or a calculation of all the building parts, slabs, doors, windows, walls, and everything else, you should go with the building calculation, the first option, and you can actually decide which type of option you would like to go with. I will just summary everything. Let's just go OK. And then the software generates this content, and you can just save it. Like let's name it building calculation. I think I already created that before, so I just click there and I overwrite it. I just click on save, and then the software will open this in an Excel file. Now this Excel file and all sorts of Excel files ARCHLine generates comes with the kind of summary here. And then now I wanted to focus on the walls, and the software calculates the walls, makes tiny thumbnails of them so I can easily find them. And also there are all the detailed information, so I can make calculations like painted surfaces and everything else, like building calculations, cost estimations and everything else. So this is, and having all sorts of other pages, I can work with the details. Now, if I close this, I would like to show you another option, which is, I think it's a good example because we worked with the rooms. So we obviously would like to see a kind of summary of the rooms, and there's a specific dedicated option for that, and it's in the Excel list, and it's called the rooms. So if I click here, the software will ask you to update the content, which is a wise choice to do so, because if you change the drawing, this way you can make sure that the latest content is appearing. Let's just go, and again, I created one previously, so I just update that. Yeah, save it. So again, I have a summary of all the rooms that I've created on the ground floor. And then I have a space information, and this space information comes with the floor information, the room name, and the calculation. So again, this is also something that could be a very useful thing to use as a proof of concept, proof of calculations, because the software actually makes the calculation detailed to be able to work with that.
And now we are going to look at how to put all this together, because we are going to prepare a plot layout and we are going to print it.
Yeah, let's do that. So you create plot layouts using the documentation tool, and there is the plot layout command list. Here you need to prepare a plot layout before assembling content onto that.
What are plot layouts anyway? Why would we need to use them?
Plot layouts are actually virtual papers. So also you need to set up the form factor, what's the size. I will go with an A3, ISO A3 paper. And I will go with the landscape option, and also you can enable or disable a plot stamp if you would like to make them appear. We will get back to this. I will just disable this option for now, but you can actually use plot stamps or title boxes as groups that are designed previously. I just disable that now and go with OK. Now I have this plot layout appearing as an empty white paper. Now to be able to place content here, I need to use the Project Navigator. And the Project Navigator nicely lists all the drawings that I've created. Now, the ground floor is Elatonova 01, so it appears as a floor plan like that. And I have the ground floor appearing here. So if I would like to place this here, I just click and drag and release, and I select the scaling.
Yes.
And let's go with, I believe 1:100 is something that would be perfect. So I just place it here. And now I actually have a content that appears here that I don't want to see on this layout. And in that case, I can just click here and I can trim the contours back. This is kind of a portal, kind of a view through this page to the original content. So that means whenever the original drawing will change, I change the location of the north direction, or I update the text, it will be updated. So let's see, I think let's just see an example to that. Yes. Let's add a detail here on the ground floor text, like let's make it a different text. I just enable that and add like scaling equals 1:100 or something like that. Okay, so it's updated. And now if I would like to update this content appearing here, I need to right click on this content and say refresh this. Now the software checks the drawing and updates everything that has changed. So it's this way, this content, even though it's a virtual paper, it's kind of an indirect connection with the original content. To be able to place another drawing here, it works totally the same way. We actually created a 2D section. So the 2D section, because it was a 2D view, it's appearing here. And it's the drawing itself was placed on the ground floor of that 2D drawing. So I just click and place and release. And I believe, again, 1:100 will be perfect. And let's just place it somewhere here nicely aligned. I align it, and when I like the position, I release. Again, this is something that I can select. I can trim it back if I don't want to see the whole content. And I can also rotate and move just as I would do with any other 2D content.
Is it possible to get just one part of the floor plan onto this plot layout in a different scale? So maybe I want one part to be larger.
Yeah, even we can be on that if we would have variations and different versions of this drawing. But answering to your question, all you need to do is going back to the original 2D drawing and find that part that you would like to make a kind of a copy of, and you need to use the plot layout and copy part to plot layout, this option here. This allows you to, it's actually coming with the description how it works. This actually allows you to select one specific part, like from this here to this part, like that one, and you need to pick up a point to start, like a reference point. And with that reference point, you can just go back to the plot layout itself and use the plot layout and place plot layout, and you can select the scaling. Let's place it in 1:50 perhaps. It's a little bit larger. So let's select this one and place it somewhere around here, for example, or here. And again, this is like a dynamic window or a content that you can look through to the original one. So at any time, if you would like to make it wider, for example, you can just make an offset, change it, and you see a much larger part of this content.
If I want to add further details, dimensions for instance, could I add them to the plot layout?
No, whenever you would like to add details, measurements, text, and everything else, you should add it to the original content and handle the content via layers to assemble the content the way you want. And talking about that, just a quick side note here. If you go and select this, any of those content, and you go to the details, you can later change the scaling. Even you can change what sort of floor plan you would like to see here. And you can also change the layer combinations any way you want after placement as well.
Should we print this now?
Yeah, okay, let's do that. Now we have this plot layout. Let me just organize the content. So this plot layout should be printed either to a physical printer, or now in this case we will use PDF as the virtual paper that we produce here. So I just go and use the print to PDF option. Now print to PDF comes with the printing settings like I would literally print a paper on my computer, and it comes with a preview. Now the preview is very tiny now. And it's because we are printing a content which we didn't set up the scaling or anything else, how it would look like on the real world paper when we print it. Now, first things first, we are at the PDF printing page, so we should define the file name. I click here, and I will just, let me just save it on your desktop here, and let me name it like layout 1 or something like that, layout 1. Okay, this will be the name of the PDF file. So layout 1 is, actually it's not A4, so it should be A3. And it should be also landscape. And it has a content. Now I'm using the entire drawing option because I have only one page. If I would have multiple pages, I would go with another option. We will discuss that later. And also I can select the scaling. Now this content is already scaled. This content already contains drawings properly scaled 1:50, 1:100, 1 to anything. So I don't need to further downscale it. I just use 1:1 because that's the page I'm looking at, 1:1. So I'm selecting this, center the plot. This is how it looks like. And now when I click on print, the software generates this PDF file on your desktop in this specific case. And the software will open it in a PDF reader. And this PDF reader is, actually it appeared on the other screen. Let me just closely bring it back, and it's this one. So this is how it looks like. Now it's a PDF file published, and this is something that I can already attach to an email, for example, and send to my clients, and they can just see it without having to have a very specific file viewer, because that's just a PDF file.
That's right. Now let's move on to multi-page PDFs.
So to create multi-page PDFs, we can actually stack multiple layouts, for example, into the same content using the print queue. But before we do that, let's just create another page onto this layout, and we will assemble them. So we will go with this one, and we will prepare a new plot layout using this plot layout tool again, and prepare plot layout. And before I'm adding that, and I make sure that I use the correct settings, I go with the A4 paper now. I will actually add the smaller paper page into this series than we used before, A3. And now I add landscape. And again, I skipped the title box,
Yes,
but we
we
could
don't
add.
need it.
Those are actually groups, and groups can be created as 2D drawings. You can save them using the drafting group, create 2D group option. So now I skip that and I go OK. Yeah, well, there's a question, if you already have a page and you would like to add a new, entirely new series of pages, then you should go with the first option. And if you would like to add a new page here, then you should go with the second option. So now I have this plain white empty paper here.
So it doesn't really matter what the paper size or orientation is. You can just put them next to each other.
Yeah, and actually many documentations are assembled with variable sizes of pages. Some of them are only one single size, but now I wanted to combine two different pages so we can see how that looks like in a PDF file. So now I have this A3 and A4, and here I would like to place this, this elevation content. And as we've worked on this content, it got offline, kind of, it's not updated version. So what I do before, I place it here, I go here and I enlarge that. And on this content, I just use the same option I used before. Remember, we used this shading option to recalculate the shading. So that's what I do again to update the content. And then I will place this content onto that plain white paper here. So let me just switch drawings. And here I would like to place the content. So I can see that this elevation, the vast elevation, appears here. So I can just click and drag this vast elevation here and select the scaling. It will be again 1 to 100. And I place it somewhere around here like that. So I'm happy with this content. That's now nice and shaded. And now I have 2 pages on this layout, and I would like to create a 2-page PDF here. Now, instead of using the regular print to PDF, which only allows me to select one page, I will use the file, and there is this print queue option. A print queue is a list of to be printed jobs. And what I do here, I add the first task to execute, and that will be this plot layout, the first sheet. And from the first sheet, based on my settings, I will select one page and add it to the execution list.
So now from this 2 drawings, you have to pick one, or you have to pick
I will pick one, add it. And then I will select the other one, and I will also add it. Now both appears, but it's not good. So I will again go with the print to PDF option. I will just print a regular PDF. I will just change the name to layout pages, for example. So this indicates that it has multiple pages. This will be the name of the PDF. The first one, the first page, is actually A3. It is, instead of scale to fit, again, I should choose a 1-to-1. And instead of the entire drawing, which consists of these and this 2 together, I should just pick this up. And to be able to do that, I will go and select the view. There's 2 options, the current view and the view. And in case here, I click on the option, and I can just pick the view that I would like to add. Okay, so that's now it's calculated. It's just added to the print dialog. I can center that. That's fine. Perfect. And when I hit apply, it is added as one task to this print job. And
that's
I
page
just
1.
Repeat that, yeah. To add the second page. Again, I click on insert new. I select the same plot layout, and okay. And then when the dialog appears, I need to set up A4 as the paper size. Make sure that the scaling instead of scale to fit is 1-to-1, so it's A4. I intentionally leave the name of the PDF the same because I would like to add it as a new page to that PDF. And I again go with the view option and click on this one and select the content from corner to corner from this A4 size page. And then when it's added, I will see it in the preview, and I can make it centered like that. And I think I'm fine with that. Scaling, size, and view is fine. And I click OK, apply. And then now it's something that I can print it. If I hit OK and I save this project, this print task will also save with the project. So half year later, 2 years later, when I pick it up, I will have the exact same print task which I assembled 2 years before. But now I will create the PDF file, so I just click on print, Now the software will create the PDF. I believe it will appear on the other screen. So when it does, I will just bring it back here so you will see how the content looks like.
So in what kind of scenarios would you be using this section?
Well, this is in many cases when you have a complex documentation. Let me just bring this back into screen. So this is the PDF file. This is the layout pages PDF. The first page, which has the A3 content, and when I scroll down, this is the A4 content. So it's actually 2 pages, 1 and 2, and I can just switch between the two. So this is very useful for most of your projects because very likely you would like to assemble one certain type of drawings into one layout, another certain different views are assembled in one view, different 2D layouts, ground floor and the first floor on the same page, and so on. So this is how you assemble this content like that. If something is not appearing on the content, it's likely because there is an option for the content where you can decide whether a drawing part is visible or not visible, and it's in the layer manager. And if you can see that there are the printer options. Now these printer options, if those are off, that means that whatever content you have on that layer, it won't be printed.
Like the roof is off, right?
Like for example, the roof is off, so that's why we didn't see that content. If I disable that and I hit OK, and then I update the content and I recreate the PDF file, it will be updated the same way as it was before.
One topic left to discuss regarding printing, and that is how to grab a copy of what we see in the 3D window. So when would you print the 3D window?
Well, in this case, I will just zoom and I will just swap the views and find a nice perspective, for example, like that, which shows the largest part of this building. And let's make sure that it's printed into a PDF file so I can easily share with my clients. Now, if I would like to do that, there is the same option. I go to Print to PDF. And I just select the scaling or whatever option I have on this page. Now this is a simpler version of what we saw before because now we don't have many options, only the paper size. It's let's say it's A4. It's a landscape drawing. It should be scale to fit and it should be centered. So this is how it will appear. And it should have a file name and it will be called, let's say, concept drawing, concept 3D, for example. Yeah, like that. So let's say I save that, and when I click on OK, then the software will actually make a larger resolution snapshot of this content, what I had here, and then it saves it into the PDF file. So now it appears. I can again send this to my client. What I see here depends on what I saw in the previous model. So if I build only the first floor, if I have shading here, if I represent it in a specific way, this is how the software will publish it into the PDF file.
Perfect. And that actually concludes the second part of our ARCHLine.XP from start to finish webinar series.
Yeah.
So far we looked at how to create a drawing, a model like what you have just seen, and today we talked about how to create documentation, sections, elevations, schedules, quantity takeoffs, and eventually how to push all these into a PDF file. The conclusion, the third part, comes next week, and we are going to talk about what exactly?
It's about visuals, how to create renderings, what to do with the lighting, materials, and so on. So how to prepare your model and how to represent it the best way for your clients beyond what we see now on what we saw now on screen, not just line drawings, but actually realistic renderings and visuals.
That's right. Thank you for your attention. See you next week.
See you. Goodbye.